The past tense in English. Well, the past tense is used to talk about something that happened and finished in the past. So it's a completed action in the past. There are two types of verbs when we talk about the past tense. We have the regular verbs, which we only add ed. And then we have the irregular verbs, which sometimes we have to check the list because they're very complicated. So you have a list that's included in this course. So make sure you check your list, okay? So, how do the regular verbs function in English? Well, the regular verbs in the past tense, all we have to do is to add ed, okay? And if you notice in this chart, I did not put the subject pronouns because once you learn the past tense of the verb, it's the same for all the subjects. So let's take the example of this verb, visit. In the past, it's visited. So I visited, you visited, he, she, it visited, we visited, they visited. If you notice, the verb does not change, okay? For all the subject pronouns. Good. One thing I want to explain here before I move on is the pronunciation. The verbs ending in T or D in English, when we put them in the past tense, that is when we add ed to them, we hear the pronunciation ed. So that's why I say visited. But I want you to pay attention to the way that I pronounce the other verbs. Good. For the verbs ending in CH, we do the same. We add ed. So watch becomes watched. Okay, you hear that? I didn't say watched. I say watched. Okay, wish becomes wished. Okay, I didn't say wished. I say wished. Carry, I have to change the Y, the letter Y to I, and then I add ed. And listen to this sound. Carried. So, carried. But I'm not going to say carried. Carried? No. Carried. Knock, when I put it in the past tense, I get knocked. Knocked. Okay? Sail, when I put it in the past tense, I get sailed. So if you notice, at the end, you hear this soft t or d, t, d, except for the verbs that end in t and d, we have to say ed, visited. Good. So that was just like a quick lesson on the pronunciation. So let's check some examples in the affirmative, okay? And if you notice here in red, I have some words to highlight that we're talking about the past. Whenever you see words like yesterday, last night, on Wednesday, last week, this morning, a few hours ago, last year, okay? You know that we have to use the simple past tense because we're talking about something in the past. Let's check the example. She visited the museum yesterday. The man watched a movie at home last night. The school wished that the student hadn't gotten into a fight on Wednesday. The truck carried the stones away last week. Someone knocked on the door this morning. The ship sailed away a few hours ago. Okay, good. So whenever you see these words, you know that they're the past tense. How do we create the negative form in the past tense? Well, we need the auxiliary verb do in the past tense, which is did. So for the negative, we're going to use did not plus the verb in the base form. She did not, or we can use the contraction didn't, visit the museum yesterday. The man did not watch a movie at home last night. The school did not wish that the student hadn't gotten into a fight on Wednesday. The truck did not carry the stones away last week. Someone did not knock on the door this morning. The ship did not sail away a few hours ago. So as you can see, it's very simple. You use the verb did, it's the auxiliary verb, not, and then you use the base form of the main verb that you want to use. And in the affirmative and in the negative, I'm using the same sentences so you can see how the verbs change, okay? Now for the interrogative or the question form, we have to start off with the auxiliary verb did, then the subject, then the verb, and the complement of the sentence. For example, did she visit the museum yesterday? If you notice here, okay, I'm using did. It's already indicating that it's the past tense. So I cannot use visited. I cannot put ed on this verb. This verb has to be in the base form. Another error that I see my students use a lot when they're using the past tense is that they say, was she visit? Like, was visit. Just because you're using was does not mean that it's the correct way to put it in the past tense. So no, we have to use did. Did is the auxiliary verb for the past tense, okay? And the verb to be is kind of an independent verb in this case. Did the man watch a movie at home last night? Did the school wish that the student hadn't gotten into a fight on Wednesday? Did the truck carry the stones away last week? Did someone knock on the door this morning? Did the ship sail away a few hours ago? Okay, this is the question form of the past tense. Good. These are regular verbs, remember. For the irregular verbs, we have to just check the list, but the structure is exactly the same. The structure doesn't change. Now for the verb to be, which is être for those who speak French, and ser or estar for those who speak Spanish. And this one is pretty straightforward. In the affirmative form, I can use was or I can use were. I was. You were. He, she, it was. We were. They were. And that's it. We just use it like that and the complement in the sentence. If we're using the negative form, wasn't or was not, weren't or were not, I could say I was not. You were not. He, she, it was not. We were not. They were not. And for the question forms, we have to start the question with the verb to be. So in this case, was or were. Was she at the party? Were they happy? Okay, so the same structure as we saw, okay, but in this case, we do not need to use the auxiliary verb to do because to be is very independent, okay? So it can function on its own. Perfect. Awesome. So that would be all for the verb for the past tense in English. I hope it was clear. So let me just go back over. For the regular verbs, we add ed. For the irregular verbs, we have to check the list that will be provided in this course. This is how we write it in the affirmative form. We just have to add ed to the end of the verbs. Remember that sometimes the pronunciation can change. So you hear like a d or t at the end. But for the verbs ending in t or d, you hear ed, like visited. Very good. If it's in the negative form, you only need did, not, plus the verb in base form. If you notice the verb is always in base form, we cannot change the verb. If we're using the interrogative form, we have to start the sentence with did. It's always did. The subject, okay? The subject can change, and then the verb in the base form. Perfect. I hope this was clear, and we will move on to the next part of the course in a moment.